Have you ever noticed that someone who once admired you suddenly becomes cold? The conversations become shorter. The respect quietly disappears. The jokes become sharper. Your opinions are dismissed, and no matter how hard you try to understand what changed, nothing seems to make sense. Most people assume they did something wrong. They replay every conversation. They apologize more. They become quieter. They work harder to earn back approval. But what if the real reason has very little to do with you? What if disrespect isn't always a response to your mistakes, but to the uncomfortable emotions your presence awakens in someone else? This is one of the most misunderstood parts of human nature. People rarely announce why they begin treating you differently. Instead, they protect their self-image with stories. They convince themselves that you're arrogant, lucky, selfish, changed, difficult. Not because those things are true, but because those stories make their own emotions easier to live with. Carl Jung believed that people often see in others what they cannot accept within themselves. He called this the shadow, the hidden side of the personality that quietly influences thoughts, emotions, and relationships. Friedrich Nietzsche warned that resentment often disguises itself as moral judgment. Instead of admitting envy or insecurity, people may criticize the very qualities they secretly wish they possessed. The Stoics reached a similar conclusion from another direction. They believed you cannot control how others judge you. You can only control whether you surrender your peace to those judgments. The disturbing truth is that disrespect is not always earned. Sometimes it is projected. Sometimes it is convenient. Sometimes it is simply the price of becoming someone different. In this video, we'll uncover 6 dark truths about why people suddenly lose respect for you, and, more importantly, why understanding these patterns can protect your confidence without turning you into a cynical person. Because once you recognize what's happening beneath the surface, you stop chasing approval. And that changes everything. Truth number 1, your growth quietly changes the social balance. One of the strangest moments in life is realizing that not everyone celebrates your progress. At first, people cheer you on. They encourage your dreams. They tell you to become the best version of yourself. But when you actually begin changing, the atmosphere shifts. The same friend who once supported your goals now teases your discipline. A coworker suddenly becomes dismissive. Family members question your decisions. The encouragement slowly transforms into criticism. Most people believe this happens because success makes others jealous. Sometimes that's true, but the deeper reason is more subtle. Human relationships often develop around an invisible balance. Everyone unconsciously learns their role. One person becomes the funny one. Another becomes the responsible one. Someone else becomes the helper. And someone quietly accepts being underestimated. These roles create comfort because they are familiar. When you begin growing, you're not only changing yourself, you're changing the entire balance of the relationship. Without saying a word, you're forcing others to rethink who they are in comparison to you. That comparison can be uncomfortable. Imagine 2 close friends. For years, both complain about wanting better careers. One finally starts learning new skills, wakes up earlier, and gradually earns a promotion. The other doesn't. Nothing dramatic happens. No argument, no betrayal. Yet the friendship feels different. The successful friend becomes obsessed. Too serious. Not fun anymore. Notice what happened. The behavior didn't change overnight. The interpretation did. Jung might say that your growth became a mirror. And mirrors can be painful. They reflect possibilities people have avoided. This doesn't mean everyone who criticizes you is insecure. Sometimes your actions genuinely affect others. Healthy relationships allow room for honest feedback. The danger comes when every improvement is automatically interpreted as arrogance or rejection. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people act according to what seems right from their own perspective. That perspective is shaped by fears, habits, and experiences you cannot fully see. When someone's respect disappears simply because you're becoming more disciplined, remember this: growth doesn't just reveal your potential. It also reveals the expectations other people quietly placed upon you. And not everyone is prepared to let those expectations go. Truth number 2. People often respect the version of you that needed them. This truth is uncomfortable because it challenges something many people desperately want to believe. We like to think respect is unconditional, that if we're kind, loyal, and supportive, people will naturally value us. Sometimes they do, but not always. There are relationships built less on mutual respect than on emotional dependence. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. Someone enjoyed giving you advice, helping you solve problems, making decisions for you. You appreciated their support. Then, over time, you became more confident. You stopped asking permission. You trusted your own judgment. You learned to say no. Suddenly, the relationship became tense. They accused you of changing. They claimed you'd become distant, maybe even selfish. But had your character really changed? Or had the relationship lost the role that made them feel important? Jung observed that identity is deeply connected to the roles we play. When someone unconsciously defines themselves as the rescuer, the mentor, or the indispensable friend, your independence can feel like a personal loss, not because you've harmed them, but because it challenges the story they tell themselves about who they are. This doesn't mean their feelings are fake. It means relationships are often more psychologically complex than they appear. Think about a workplace. A manager enjoys guiding a junior employee. Over time, that employee develops new skills and begins making decisions confidently. Instead of celebrating the growth, the manager starts criticizing small mistakes. Meetings become colder. Praise disappears. From the outside, it looks like the employee has lost respect. Underneath, something else may be happening. The old relationship no longer exists. The balance has shifted. Nietzsche wrote that many struggles between people are really struggles over power. Not necessarily power in the obvious sense, but the subtle desire to preserve one's place in the world. When another person's confidence grows, it can unintentionally challenge that sense of place. Again, this isn't a rule. Many mentors are genuinely delighted when others surpass them. Healthy parents want independent children. Good leaders create future leaders. True friends celebrate one another's growth. The point is not to become suspicious of everyone around you. The point is to recognize that some relationships become strained when they were built more on dependency than mutual respect. Real respect doesn't disappear when you become stronger. It adapts. It grows with you. And if someone's respect exists only while you remain uncertain, then perhaps what they respected wasn't you at all. Perhaps they respected the role you played in their story. And those are two very different things. Truth number 3. People don't always react to who you are. They react to what you represent. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing every negative reaction is personal. Often it isn't. Sometimes you become the symbol of something another person is struggling with inside themselves. This is one of the ideas that made Carl Jung so influential. He believed that people rarely see others with complete objectivity. Instead, they interpret people through their own fears, hopes, wounds, and expectations. Imagine someone who has always wanted to start a business, but never took the risk. Years later, they meet a friend who finally launches one. The friend isn't bragging. They aren't trying to prove anything. They're simply living differently. Yet every conversation suddenly feels tense. Small successes are dismissed as luck. Hard work is explained away. Every mistake becomes evidence that the dream was foolish from the beginning. On the surface, it appears to be criticism. Underneath, something deeper may be happening. The successful friend has become a living reminder of a path the other person never took. That reminder can be uncomfortable. Human beings naturally compare themselves to those around them. Sometimes comparison inspires us. Sometimes it threatens our sense of identity. This doesn't make people evil. It makes them human. Friedrich Nietzsche often wrote about resentment, not simply as anger toward others, but as the emotional discomfort that arises when someone else embodies qualities we struggle to develop ourselves. When people can't easily change their own situation, they may change the story instead. Instead of saying, "I wish I had their courage," they quietly convince themselves they're arrogant. The story protects the ego. It reduces discomfort. It restores emotional balance. You've probably seen this happen. A family member loses weight after months of discipline. Instead of encouragement, they hear, "You've changed." A quiet student becomes more confident. Classmates call them full of themselves. A coworker begins setting healthy boundaries. Suddenly, they're labeled difficult. Notice something important. The same behavior that earns respect in one environment can invite criticism in another. Context changes perception. This is why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people's opinions often reveal more about their own judgments than about objective reality. Of course, self-reflection still matters. Sometimes criticism is accurate. Sometimes confidence becomes arrogance. Sometimes ambition becomes selfishness. Wisdom comes from honestly asking, "Is there truth in this feedback?" without automatically assuming every criticism defines who you are. The deeper lesson is this: not every negative reaction is a verdict. Sometimes it's simply a reflection. And reflections often tell us as much about the observer as the person being observed.